Oh, thanks, Tim. And it's a pleasure to be presenting again today on Antisense Therapeutics. I am, though, particularly excited to be presenting today as just last week, we announced a major advancement in our development program for Duchenne muscular dystrophy with the Pediatric Development Committee of the European Medicines Agency agreeing to the design of our proposed phase 2b/3 pivotal trial in Europe. So this outcome essentially positions us as potentially one study only away from being able to access the second biggest pharmaceutical market in the world. It also puts us in a elite company within the local biotechnology space, listed space, with only a handful of companies at the same advanced stage of clinical development. So the majority of whom have market caps that are many multiples of the current market valuation of Antisense Therapeutics and topping out at $2 billion. It was also very encouraging, Tim, to report in concert with this achievement of the major development milestone that we completed an oversubscribed placement to institutional and sophisticated investors to raise $20 million to fund the advancement of this pivotal program. So this funding significantly strengthened the company's balance sheet. In fact, it's the most capital raised by the company in its history. The announcement also outlined a pathway to funding the program all the way through to trial results, and a funding pathway that allows us to match the funding to our near-term development requirements, while also avoiding unnecessary dilution. So I guess, simply put, we're at the doorstep of something rare and exceptional in the biotech space. And so I'd like to think our shareholders should be very excited about the journey we're about to embark on. So next slide, thank you. So this, I guess, overviews the perspective I've just provided here. The lead program being in Duchenne muscular dystrophy. And so my presentation today will focus on Duchenne's. And as I said, this very exciting next step in the final approach towards getting an approval for the product in Europe. Next slide, thank you. The price chart here tracks the share price performance of the company since we initiated the program in Duchenne muscular dystrophy, and when we raised capital, when the company was capped at 5 million, we did that at 2.4 cents, up to tracking the share price up until our most recent financing, which we did at 24 cents, with a market cap now just under 140 million. You'll notice that the major shareholder is Platinum Asset Management. For those unfamiliar with Platinum, they are an Australian-based investment manager with over $22 billion under management, highly regarded, with a special focus in healthcare, investing internationally. So we're delighted to have them on the register. That participated in every financing that we've undertaken to date, on the program, including the most recent financing at 24 cents. So again, we're really pleased to have them there as a supportive shareholder. Just point out the analyst coverage that we have on the company available on our website. 5 local analysts that have positive recommendations on the company. Next slide, thanks. The company has a very experienced and internationally recognised board, but I'd like to specifically point out the appointment of Dr. Charmaine Gittleson as chair of the company. That's a recent appointment. Dr. Gittleson was CMO, Chief Medical Officer at CSL until she recently retired from executive duties. And so, with Charmaine's appointment, along with Dr. Gil Price, we've significantly strengthened the international clinical development of experience of our board, timed with us moving into this critical last phase of development. So, not only do we think this, reflects the bolstering of the experience of the board in anticipation of this next major phase of development for the company. But we also think being able to attract people of the caliber of Charmaine and Gil onto our board, does suggest the potential that sits here with Antisense Therapeutics. Next slide, thank you. So Duchenne's is a progressive muscle wasting disease of boys. It's caused by a genetic mutation that prevents these boys from making a protein that's important for normal muscle function. While it's a rare disease, it actually affects a large percentage of boys. And so, in fact, there's about 45,000 boys in the Northern Hemisphere that have Duchenne's. A key challenge when treating Duchenne's is to look to address the inflammation in the muscles that drives this steady, progressive, insidious loss of muscle. And today, there's only one way of going about addressing that inflammation in these boys, and it's through the use of a drug class called corticosteroids. These corticosteroids, they are modest in their activity or effectiveness, but they come with some very substantial side effects. And the drugs were first approved 60 years ago. So we haven't seen us, or at least in the Duchenne community, hasn't seen a significant innovation in the treatment of inflammation for all that time. So we're focused on in developing a drug to better address this inflammation than the corticosteroids. And we're really excited about the prospect we have with our drug H1102. Next slide. So, because this is an indication where there's a substantial unmet medical need, where the market is paying a premium for access to therapies, and where there's very little competition, we see this as being a multi-billion-dollar product opportunity. And the reasons for that are highlighted here. We've got a novel mechanism. No other drug that's being developed for Duchenne's works in the same way as our drug. We're the only company in the world that has a drug working in the manner that it does in these Duchenne's boys. We've got great phase 2 clinical trial data, which is underpinning us moving into this last lot of clinical development. Because of the novel mechanism of action of the drug, we expect the drug to be able to be used in combination with existing therapies. The benefit of that is that you're avoiding head-to-head competition, and so that is a really exciting aspect of the program. We've got a tremendous IP position that we've established to support the commercialization of the drug. That's been strengthened as well too through the orphan drug designations that we've achieved in both the US and Europe. That adds additional market protection beyond our patents. Next slide. So the study that we've raised the capital for to advance towards an approvable outcome in Europe is highlighted here. It is what's known as a multi-center randomized double-blind placebo-controlled study. So it's sort of gold standard for looking at getting a program like this through the regulatory authorities. You'll see we're planning to run 108 patients in the study, dosing for 12 months. And we'll be also following these patients up in what's known as an open label phase 2, add more safety data and experience to the program, but ultimately looking to generate data in these boys at 12 months that if it shows significant improvement over placebo, allow us to move forward with seeking approval in Europe. Next slide, thank you. So this outlines the timeline for the development of the drug. It is an accelerated program if you were to compare it with other programs that are looking to take a drug through to approval. Those for, say, chronic diseases. This is a truncated program because we are focused on a rare disease indication. Next step for us, now that we've got the finance in place, is to complete an evaluation feasibility of the trial sites that we're going to be running this program at in Europe. Previous slide mentioned there's going to be in 9 countries where we're looking to enroll in over 30 trial sites. So big program that we're moving forward on. and we're all going well, which it is at the moment. We're looking to be able to initiate the study first half of next year. Next slide, thank you. So the market for this drug is very substantial, and when we think about the market potential, we need to break it out in sort of two levels. Firstly, there's the opportunity, near-term opportunity in Duchenne muscular dystrophy. And as I mentioned earlier, because this is a marketplace where there's a desperate need for better therapies, but there's actually quite a large patient population, and where the market will pay a premium for therapy, this market is expected to grow as big as 10 billion by 2030, and again with very little competition. We're initially focusing on the boys that are more advanced with the disease. These are boys that become non-ambulant, so require wheelchairs for mobility. For those boys, they have nothing beyond the corticosteroids. And so we think that as they represent over half of the boys with Duchenne's, this presents as a multi-billion-dollar opportunity in the non-ambulant space for our drug. But beyond that, the second aspect to the market potential of the drug, we see H1102 having a broader application in inflammatory disease beyond Duchenne's muscular dystrophy. And the market for anti-inflammatory drugs is enormous. It's forecast to grow to nearly $200 billion marketplace by 2027, you can see in the slide there. And we think that this drug can be a major participant player in that marketplace, where we are working on programs to shore up the drug's activity in broader disease setting. And so we're looking forward to reporting our progress in these other diseases. So next slide, thank you. Last and final slide in the presentation today. Just wanted to, again, reinforce that the $20 million that we've just raised today allows us to advance into this pivotal trial in Europe, which we expect will generate substantial news flow and near-term value creation catalysts, with obviously the rich news flow that will come from that. What we'd like to also suggest to our shareholders is that, just given the company's track record in hitting milestones and seeing that reflected in the ever-increasing valuation of the company, that the company will look to deliver on that again in the advancement of the program into this pivotal program. But what's really exciting, and I think would really capture the enthusiasm of all our shareholders, is that we're heading into the last and final stage, the greatest value creation point for a company in drug development, and that is as we head towards a potential approval of the drug, as I said, in the second biggest pharmaceutical market in the world. So thanks, Tim. Happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Mark. A couple of questions, quite a few actually. There's always a lot of debate amongst investors in the biotech space around partnerships and the timing of bringing on a partner. What are your views on this topic in regards to Antisense?
Sure. So we're presently focused on advancing into this phase 2b/3 clinical trial in Europe. So we've raised capital, moved the program forward. We think that is a exciting opportunity to create substantial value for the company. But we expect, Tim, that as we advance the program, we'll generate interest from pharmaceutical companies. And so what we've said to the market, Tim, is that, as that interest comes through, we'll obviously entertain it, and, we'll contemplate, any overtures, around the program, in the context of that. So, we will, of course, if, something presents that we think's in the, interest of shareholders, if anything rises to the level of materiality, we'll report on it. I just make the point, I mentioned earlier that we're within, there's only a handful of companies, in the local biotech space that are in advanced clinical trials. The ones that have the biggest market caps are the ones who haven't partnered with the program. So, what you're doing there, you're trading off, obviously risk, versus, the value creation potential. So our view is, we've got, great opportunity here to really, drive, extraordinary value on the company if we continue to hold the asset, retain the value, and march it forward towards this approvable outcome.
And there's the question in terms of the kind of big pharma, Sarepta and rival Pfizer are kind of neck to neck in a in a race, and they're looking at bringing gene therapy to DMD. Both have had issues recently, big issues. How does this kind of impact Antisense?
Sure. So I guess, at an obvious level, while it's unfortunate for the Duchenne's community, it does reflect as good news for Antisense Therapeutics, because, it has people sort of focusing away from a gene therapy approach to other ways of, looking to address Duchenne's, like, the treatment of the inflammatory aspect of it. So, we think that it does shine a spotlight on our drug, these major players having these setbacks. We also believe, though, Tim, is that, these gene therapies, they continue to be used in combination with anti-inflammatory therapies, the corticosteroids. So even, with these programs with the purported promise that was being suggested by those major pharma companies, which now has been blunted a bit with the setbacks, they're also having to acknowledge that they were going to have to use, an anti-inflammatory therapy. So we think, that even if these programs should move forward, they're probably going to be focused on the ambulant boys only, not the non-ambulant boys that we're in, and likely present as an opportunity for a combination therapy with our own drug.
And Mark, you just recently did a $20 million placement to institutions. You spoke about Platinum International. They run a healthcare fund with Bianca Ogden there. Can you give us a little bit more colour on the type of institutions that come in to that raise? I know you probably can't name them, and where they see the potential upside in regards to owning shares at 24 cents.
Sure. So you're right, Tim. Platinum participated in this raising. They become a substantial shareholder in the process. So, that news is in the market. Correctly, stated that I can't speak specifically to, the other investors that have come into the stock, but it was a specific placement, an oversubscribed one to institutional and sophisticated investors. Why they participated, I think, is the same story that I'm talking to here today, Tim. They've seen the de-risking around the news from PEDCO. The European Reg Authority's given us the green light to move into this next phase of development. They're mindful of the market capitalizations of our peers locally. They know that some of these companies have got market caps topping out to 2 billion, where we're sitting well below that at the moment. And so, I think they're major influences on the decision. I'd like to think as well too, Tim, that we were convincing, in our the story that we put about our ability to, to hit milestones, to be able to, deliver on this, future value creation. We said, through the development of this drug, I think we hit on 19, key value inflection points. And so, with the view that, that puts us in great stead. I think, again, having Charmaine and Gil come onto the board, we announced that before we went out to the financing. I'm sure that's, also helped in the process. So I think it's the same story, Tim, that I'm talking to here today, that has encouraged these investors to come on.